always work with a training partner just because working to failure, it's not practical. If you haven't got a training partner, you at least need a good spotter, somebody that knows what they're doing. If you're going to failure with on an incline press with a free weight, for instance, if you've got a failure and there's nobody there spotting you, it's very dangerous. You could get stuck with that weight on your chest. So you need a good training partner, or at least a spotter, to assist you in those exercises where it's not safe and practical to do it without a training partner. So for me, they're essential, but of course, you've got to have a training partner that has the same goals as yourself. I think that's very important. So you got 4 workouts covering the whole body over a 6-day period. Having said that, you got to be flexible. If you need an extra day for recovery, then take an extra day. So that'll become 4 days over 7. Some people may need even more. You got to listen to your body. If you need more days to recover, then just extend that cycle into 7 days or 8 days or whatever you need. I used to do strength because strength is a good indication. If you're getting stronger, you're getting bigger and vice versa. So I would do body weight. I even used to do measurements, like measure my arms and stuff. It might sound a bit old school, but if you've got various factors there, you can see if they're all increasing. So you could do a couple of measurements. You could do your body weight on the scales. You could do your strength levels and see how that increases from month to month and have a goal each month. Even if this month I'm going to put on 2 pounds. If you did that every month at the end of the year, it's 24 pounds. It's a huge gain. I didn't do pitches in the off season, but I did getting ready for a contest. Every week, getting ready for a contest. That way I could track how my body was changing, and actually helped me a lot. When I won the first Mr. Olympia in 1992, I kept that every week, pictures. And what I noticed was, like, practically 5 or 6 weeks out from the contest, I was more or less in contest shape. And I kept coming down and losing weight. And I may have got a little harder, but what I realized is I was actually losing muscle. So the next year I was determined not to do that, and I didn't make that mistake. And that's why I was able to make a huge increase from one year to the next, like 16 or 17 pounds of muscle from one year to the next. And everyone's like, wow, how is that possible? There's a debate. What's better, machines or free weights? Neither, They're both tools that you can use. As long as you're working the muscle, you're working it to failure. It doesn't particularly matter if it's a machine or a free weight. There's advantages and disadvantages. The advantage with a free weight, of course, we're all built differently. We're all different heights, we're all got different lengths of limbs, different attachments and everything, where a machine is just built in one way. A free weight, if you lift a free weight and I lift a free weight, it will take a slightly different pathway because our bodies are built differently. So that's the advantage of a free weight. It works with the individual's body, where a machine, you're locked into a groove. The advantage of a machine is that you can isolate the muscle without too much outside involvement, especially if you've got injuries. They're very useful, and there's more control involved. So if you want to do extra negatives and so on, of course, if you're doing a free weight bench press, it's very awkward to do extra negatives at the end. You'd have to lift the weight to the top and lower it down, and it's just not practical and it's not really safe. Where with a machine, if you're doing a machine bench press, you can get your training partner to lift at the top and you can control it and it's safe. So there's advantages and disadvantages. I use both in my training. I use free weights, I use machines. The main thing is, it's more like the effort that you're putting in rather than the tools that you're using. In the off-season, a moderate amount of cardio I think is good for your cardiovascular conditioning. You need some decent amount of cardio to recover between your sets. So 25, 30 minutes, 3 times a week, moderate cardio, I think is good for some conditioning. It's also good for recovery from the workouts because it helps you pushing blood around the system, help get rid of the waste products from the weight workouts. I prefer to do them on days that I'm not in the gym. Or if your schedule doesn't permit that and you have to do it on the days you're weight training, I would much prefer to do it away from the weight workout. I've known for years from my own feedback that if you do cardio after weight training, it kind of interferes with the recovery. The priority is recovering from that workout and rebuilding your resources. So it's much better to do your cardio separately. And funnily enough, scientific studies are coming out now and proving this. If you do cardio after weights, your strength gains are less than if you did weights on their own. Extra Negatives are a tool that you can use to increase the intensity. Basically, you got 3 phases of strength. The weakest phase is the positive, or the lifting of the weight. That's the weakest phase. The second phase of strength is the static. You're stronger on the static. And then the third phase is the negative. Unfortunately, a lot of people think in terms of just lifting weight. So, for instance, a bench press, they've lifted the weight to the top. All right, job done. Just drop it back down and do another one. They're missing half of the rep, and possibly the most important half of the rep, because more muscle damage occurs on the negative than on the positive. And it's a damage to the muscle that the body repairs that then becomes muscle growth. So you're missing the most important part of the rep if you don't emphasize that negative part. And even when you've gone to failure on the positive part of the exercise, your muscle hasn't gone to true failure because there's still strength left in the negative. So that's why I advise sometimes doing additional negatives at the end of the set. If you've got a training partner, if you're on a machine and it's safe, for instance, you're doing bench press on a machine, you reach failure, you do a couple of forced reps, your positive strength is depleted, you failed, but you've still got something left in the negative. So you can get somebody to raise their weight to the top and lower it slowly down for a couple of reps until you can't control it. That way, you've depleted every area of the rep. I do a small amount of ab work, but there's no additional weight. It's just body weight, short movements, crunches, reverse crunches, leg raises. Of course, if you wanted to get thicker abdominals, you could use extra resistance, but most people don't, because aesthetically you don't want to build too much muscle in the midsection because it spoils your shape. So just very controlled, short movements. Basically, abdominals is just to bring these 2 points together. So sit-ups and so on, not the most effective. I found just simple forward crunches and a reverse crunch where you're bringing your hips up towards your chest and just reversing that movement. That's pretty much all I needed. Sure, you can do once a week when you're in a mass cycle, but I wouldn't recommend using extra weights because it's going to build thickness in your obliques and it's going to spoil your symmetry. I'll do several sets, just concentrating on the contraction and having more control, especially when you go on stage, controlling your abdominals and with the posing and everything. You need to be connected with the muscle, be able to control them. I can give guidelines, but obviously it varies from one person to another depending on their metabolism. I usually start with I got a lot of experience with injuries, man. I had enough injuries over the years. I've learned as I went along. As a young guy when I started,